Welcome back to Where's My Sports At? On today's podcast, the boys are back in town and we are reviewing the two major international rugby games from this weekend, the All Blacks versus England and South Africa versus Ireland. Well, that's the major games for us being Box and All Blacks fans. So, joining Jimmy and I for expert commentary today are our resident Springboks fans, Andres and Matt. And Matt is actually a previous strength and conditioning coach for the Zimbabwe Sevens team. So, gentlemen, as always, it's a pleasure to have you along and to talk about the great game.
Thanks, guys. Looking forward to it.
Yeah.
Cheers, Craig.
Thank you very much. Always good to catch up.
Definitely. So we've had a lot of comments on our YouTube channel after last week's game, which is awesome. Keep them coming. We love the engagement from all sides of the debate. I thought we'd start off with Jimmy reading out some of the feedback we've had. And Jimmy, over to you, mate.
Yeah, so I just want to put a disclaimer out there before I start reading out the feedback. I can barely read, so no, I can read. So that was a poor joke, and I guess that's going to be slandered in the comments as well. So what we're going to do is we're going to have a little bit of a competition that we're going to be running over this test season for the best comment. So whether it's positive or negative, irrespective of what the feedback is. Probably not be as harsh as you can, but some of the comments we do find quite funny. So the first one there that I am going to bring up, and this was possibly the funniest one there that I saw, from a guy called Mark Hankin, 467. So at Mark Hankin 467, welcome onto the podcast. Your comments are very much appreciated. So Mark, I'm just going to start with your first comment because you left two comments there for us. The first one was, and I'll read it probably in your voice, "You three are a waste of time. Give up as you're unable to even name players correctly. I see all the other comments and agree. 10-man rugby, prats." Fair.
Big comment,
fair.
Yeah.
But then Mark doubles down later on. Now, Mark, I have to say, your spelling was a bit of an issue for us. And when you came back, you put first and last time watching you three peaks. Is it peaks? Piakis? Is that a slur? I think you mean pricks, but if you want to be formal, put that in the comments. Good on you, Mark. You get our first comment of the week. The next one there that I had, this was the other funny one, and it made me chuckle so much that I almost spat out my coffee. So, who's the guy wearing the All Blacks jersey? Garbage analysis. Well, D. Sinilva, there's two of us wearing All Blacks jerseys.
I think they're talking about you, though, mate.
Possibly. Or were they talking about you? We'll never know because
what I found funny there, Jimmy, is it sounded like the first guy was blaming you for the English strategy
he was
of 10-man rugby.
Darn it, he did. Now, there was one other comment there that I had to add because it was a negative one, but it said, "Crusaders wank, get over DMAC narrative," from Paul Caddy 393 or 3903. Paul, none of us are Crusaders fans. Congratulations.
Andres might be.
Unlikely.
What I also
have
do
respect
is
for them, though.
What I'll also do is I'll go to the positive comment of this week. So I like the guy that put "we have no open side flanker." I thought that was quite funny. That's from BKitch5755.
And that's positive, is it?
No. But I enjoyed this, your guys' perspectives, from Jack Darby 8904. Thanks, Jack. Appreciate you, mate. Appreciate any fans that come along. But one person there put it was Les Vav, I think. I think you're seriously overlooking Luke Jacobson. He's a genuine 6, 7, or 8. Mate, that was a good comment. Actually got me thinking, got me to watch Luke Jacobson a bit more closely in the next test. Great comment, Les. You won our comment of the week, so you're top of the table. Well done.
Ooh, well done,
5
Les.
points for Les. And so
Really agree.
Yep.
I agree with Les about Luke Jacobson.
Yeah.
I think he's a natural leader and a really good player.
Yeah. And a solid beard when it gets going.
Yeah.
Good jaw. Good jaw.
I'm really jealous of his beard.
Yeah.
Good one,
But yeah,
Jimmy. Thank you, mate.
thank you everyone for the comments. Keep them coming through. We appreciate it, and we'll read them out each week because it A, gives us a chuckle, and B, is a competition. So we'll try and come up with a cool prize for you.
Wicked, thank you. Yeah, and it sort of helps get over the saltiness I sort of picked up in your voice there. So, moving on to the game. It has been 30 years since the ABs have last lost at Fortress Eden Park, and the English team were hoping to spoil the party for Razor. But what we did get was a beautiful example of Test match rugby. Two great teams bashing away at each other from the get-go to the final seconds of the match. So I want to start with Matt and Andres. What did you think of the game?
Yeah, first of all, what a frantic start to a test match. Like it just went end to end, and yeah, it was a pleasure to watch. But I immediately thought, will England be able to keep up with this pace throughout? We know the ABs can. And as you mentioned, it's turned out to be an epic battle. But what I did see was probably around the 60 minute mark. We saw that old step up by the All Blacks, where they lift up the intensity. And I started to see England really struggle with that lift up. But to their credit, they were able to fight to the end and come back. But one thing I didn't understand is the taking off of Marcus Smith. One of the indications of a good coach is, rugby ebbs and flows, and you've got to have a feel for the game. And just substituting a player just because you were going to do that pre-match is not always the best way to approach it. And I thought if they had kept Marcus Smith on that field, it could have been a different story for England. Because when he was brought back on, he immediately made an impact again. Um, so yeah, it was very interesting regarding Marcus Smith, and I saw a sign of the old All Blacks in that game in terms of the lift of the intensity. So maybe that's a good thing going forward.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think Nice Botha used to say that bringing on substitutes brings on fresh legs but a cold brain. And yeah, so there is something to be said for being on the field, being able to recognize the patterns that the other team played at the beginning of the game. And what was interesting is around that halftime mark, especially, I thought that the All Blacks would be scoring just before halftime, and it was actually Marcus Smith, yes, who got a penalty goal, before that, and yeah, so so it was a great game, and yeah, actually, so I'm lying. It wasn't a penalty goal. It was a converted try. So the English got a try right before halftime, and that went against the expectations that I had for that. And then Smith got a penalty goal just after halftime again. But yes, what was interesting was also that both teams' defense were really solid, and it looked like teams needed to go the aerial route to try and find space, and Marcus Smith was able to do that on two occasions, finding his wingers, and I think ultimately, that was amazing.
So I
Jimbo.
think,
Oh, sorry, Matt.
yeah, sorry, just quickly. I think a major difference in that match was exactly that, the substitutions. I think England got it wrong, and I think New Zealand got it right, and that was a major difference.
Jimbo.
G'day, everybody. So, agree with your guys' points. Now, I do have a retraction from last week that I just want to put out there. I accused England of being a 10-man rugby team last week, but this week I'm accusing them of being a 15-man rugby team and trying to go 80 minutes. How dare you? How dare you try and play our game? Full credit to the English. That was a really great spectacle of rugby, and I was starting to have heart palpitations towards the end because I thought England was starting to get over the game line and really, really push us. But Matt, fully agree, mate. The substitutions, Cortez Ramaka coming on, I think it was about the 63rd minute. As soon as he came on, him and DMAC just started vibing. And all
Yeah,
of a sudden, the game just changed. And then there's this guy called Bowden Barrett who just came on and just... I, I can't believe that the kick and chase he did, and then just decided to kick it with his foot. And then as a third attempt, then tried to go, I'm going to pull a 3-card trick here and try and catch it and score a try. I was like,
yeah.
what's going on with this guy? Like, absolute freak of a human being on the field. Um, Another point there that I thought was a big thing happening during the game, between the minutes 18 to 32, it was just an absolute slogfest. And I think that was one of the crucial points of the game where the tipping scales that could have gone England's way, if England got a try during that period, I felt England would have won it, but they got a try just before half time, which I was going, oh no, they've got the halftime try, but hey, full credit to what they did. They turned around from last week. Better team. Both teams were better. All Blacks were better. England was better. And I was really hopeful of a third test. A bit gutted we don't get that.
Twickenham.
Yeah, absolutely.
Twickenham and later on in the year is the third test.
Oh,
But for me, I thought we were accused last week of not giving enough credit to the English, and fair enough, I don't think we did. But I want to say I thought the English were fantastic in this game. What I liked that they did is they were doing a lot of pick and goes up through the middle, and they were getting good ground doing that. For me, I think pivotal moments in the game, or pivotal things that happened in the game. 58th minute, Artie steals a line out. And from there, that's when the momentum changed, because that's about the time we had Mr. Bowden Barrett come on the field, just before then, I think. And he was running into those gaps. And I think, what was it? Within a couple of minutes, we scored that try where Bodie puts Talia in the corner. So definitely the injection of Ratama, I thought his service was snappy and quick. And Bowden just added a whole nother level, and all the comments from everyone has been about, Bowden made the difference. And I think that that saved us. That was a turning point of the game, because from there we could go on attack and put England under the blowtorch. A couple of other pivotal moments in the game which could have really nailed it for us earlier on and changed a lot of momentum was the Cody Taylor almost runaway try. If he had have got that, that would have been brilliant. But the old legs just weren't there anymore. It's nice to see Hooker steaming through the backfield, but unfortunately he was brought down. And the other lost opportunity, I think it was in about the 18th minute, and that's where we sort of went down the left edge of the field, and DMAC passed it to Talia, who passed it back inside to Perifetta, who gives it back to Talia, and then when Talia gives it back inside, Marcus Smith intercepts. So that was a gimme try. If we had have got either of those two, I think the game would have got away from England, but they did so well putting us under such sustained pressure for so long until the Maradona of rugby came on and turned things around.
How good was Marcus Smith generally, though? Like defense, scramble defense, tactical kicking. I thought he really, really stamped his mark on the game, and it was nice to see actually.
Yeah, he caught Talia out twice, didn't he? Out on that wing, just with that little chip crick across. And the first time, I think Talia was, is it Talia or Talia?
Talia. I think Talia is
Talia, I think.
I apologise. But I think he was caught. He was up too far in the first one, and the second one he was back too far and couldn't jump high enough. And one of the things is, it's like, I think these two wingers are our best wingers at the moment. I wish they were about 6 inches taller. But we all wish we're about 6 inches bigger, right?
Definitely, but that's a good segue. Good segue, Jimmy. I think we should get into some of the players this time for both teams. Matt, you want to kick us off with How's that? Do you want to get into players who you thought stood out?
Yeah, absolutely. I thought for the All Blacks, I thought DMAC was really good again. I think he's making a strong case for saying that I'm the first choice player. We know Richie Mo'unga is going to come back at some stage, but I think Mo'unga's got a big fight in his hand, because especially when Ratama came on, that Chiefs pairing clicked. And as you know, in rugby, combinations are very important. So I thought that was a really solid performance. Bodie, we chatted about Bodie. I think his class just shone through. And in coming from an exercise science, sports science background, after 30, you start losing your fast twitch muscle fibers. I think Bodie's a freak, and I think he hasn't lost any because his pace is just extraordinary. So yeah, really good performance by Bodie, and then Ratuma. Yeah, I thought he was class as he came on. He made it, what you want from your bench players is an impact when you came on, and he came in and made a major impact. And if you compare that to Finn Smith, who came on for England at the Fly-Off channel, I mean, he didn't do bad, but he didn't make an impact. And that's where the All Blacks got it right. For England, I've touched on Marcus Smith. I thought he was brilliant. All-round general play, and I think he really came into his own in this match. His whole general performance, from kicking to passing to tactical to defence, was all sound, and I think it was a really solid performance for him. And I'm happy to see that because he's sort of been on the fringes and he hasn't really got a major opportunity, and I think he's come into his own now. The wings for England, Tommy Freeman and Emmanuel Faye-Waboso, I thought they were brilliant. I think Faye-Waboso, the reason I say he was really good is, as a winger, you asked not only to, finish off and score tries, but to go look for work. And he was industrious. Like, he really had some really strong runs, and he's really hard to bring down. Those short, stocky, athletic players, one of the toughest players to bring down in rugby. And he had a brilliant game. So yeah, I think those players really stood out for me on both sides.
Nice. Andres?
Yeah, I think Mark Delaya had 3 line breaks. So from New Zealand perspective, he was really impressive. He was looking for work all the time. And then on the English side, I mean, we've spoken about Marcus Smith, and he's, it's not one of the things that you see in the stats, but his ability to read the game, to see the space, and to then execute a pinpoint kick to find the only English player surrounded by 4 All Blacks. That's quite a skill. So I think he'd certainly, from an English perspective, be the player that stood out. But then also Ben Earl, who made 25 carries during the game. His activity levels were also, absolutely incredible. And I think that's at least 5 carries more than the next player in terms of the stats.
Wow. Jimbo, you got anyone else you want to chuck in there?
Oh, should I chuck in an Englishman? No. I
Salty.
I was watching the English closely this time. I really liked Atoje again. I just think he's just world class, and being a former forward myself, and seeing Atoje and how he was going, he's just a force. He reminds me of early Brodie Retallick back when he was younger around the field, and he just seems to be getting better and better with age, classier, and he's got a bit more of fire to him, which is cool. I also was watching Underhill quite closely. I can't remember the name of that old English open side flanker that played for them for like 15 years. I can't remember his name, but he reminds me of him. Neil Back, that's the one. Yeah. He reminds me of Neil Back. He just went hard for the whole 80. Sorry, I'm just having a bit of issues here. He went hard for the whole 80, and basically from there, he just looked like he wasn't tiring throughout the game. The other player I had as well was the 14. What was his name again? That bio.
Faye-Waboso.
So Emmanuel Faye-Waboso. It's a tough one for commentators.
I'll just edit that part out, Craig, and just say Faye-Waboso. He was really good, solid, and exactly reiterate what you said there, Matt. He looks hard to put down. He's a little fast, zippy winger, and that try he scored as well was really good off the back of things for the All Blacks. So fully agree with you guys. Like Cortez Ratama, for me, it came on, changed the game, and I just thought he just knew where to pass to get to DMAC. It set the platform, there it is. Another player that I had coming off the bench, like I could talk about all the starters, but I actually think from 1 to 15, they all had a good game, and I couldn't fault any of them. That's very rare for me to say that, but I found Fletcher Newell coming on. I thought his impact was big. That scrum in the 72nd minute, when they got that tight head against the English, huge turning point in the end of the game. And I just thought he was huge, but can't go without saying Beauden Barrett was huge when he came on. D-Mac played exceptionally well. I just thought he's becoming more of a game manager. And Geordie Barrett as well, I thought he had a solid game. He wasn't too loud, wasn't too quiet. He just played just right. So that's my take on the game.
Nice, Jimmy. Nice. And I, in regards to the All Blacks, concur everything you said. D-Mac, Talia, Geordie was one I had down as well. He got 17 tackles on defence. That's pretty big. Beauden Barrett, all class. Cortez Ratama, got the coolest name on the field.
Yeah.
He wins points just for that. Dalton Papali'i, that's something someone mentioned in the comments, which I took note of and watched him. He is a tackling machine. He nails everything going. And your mate, Christie, doesn't have the service of Ratama or the speed, but he had a couple of really good defensive tackles, I think on the number 8 and then on another player, which were really good. But something I noticed none of our current halfbacks do, because obviously Roy Gard's injured, none of our halfbacks snipe around the scrum. All they do is pass. So English players, making a special effort to make sure we include them in it. Marcus Smith, totally agree. Everything you guys said, so impressive. He's kicked 2 cross kicks for tries to 2 different wingers in the same corner. Fantastic. Ben Earl, agree with that one as well. With you, Andres, 79 run meters, which was the highest in the game after Talia. The number 12, Lawrence, I'm not sure what his first name was, but that guy was just smashing it through the middle. He was fantastic. I liked him. And, so... But? What's your but?
He was the leading... He cost them the game.
Yeah, I was just about to say that. Yeah. The truck and trailer,
yeah.
Oh, yes, you're right, at the end. But did he really cost them the game because it was held up anyway?
Oh, he did drop a ball at the 32nd minute as well.
Don't pick on the guy. I thought he had some. I was applauding his running through the back line because he ran through some gaps and he hit hard as well when he was running in there.
Yeah, no, he's a hard nut to bring down. Once again, those short, physically stocky guys are tough. They're tough. They're low center of gravity to bring down. So the perfect number 12. One negative thing I've seen, and it's with Rico Ione. I've noticed quite a few games now. Whenever he gets the ball, he's very forward focused. And there's quite a few times where he's got the ball and there's space on the outside and he doesn't give the ball. So it'll be interesting to see how that develops going forward because we all know he can slice a defense and make a play out of nothing. But quite a few times, if he had given the ball, I think the All Blacks were on. What is interesting in terms of turnovers is New Zealand won 5 and England won 2 in terms of turnovers in the match. And then line breaks, New Zealand was 8 and England was 5. But for me, the turnovers, we all know that if you win the breakdown now in international rugby, you'll win the match. And when we move on to the next game, you'll see that stat come into play as well. So the All Blacks won the turnover battle and they won the game in the end.
There was one thing that I just found interesting just in terms of tactics during the All Blacks England game is where England had a penalty just in front of the New Zealand posts and they could have kicked to either side of the field, but twice they decided to kick to the left-hand side of the field, which I thought was strange, given that most people are right-handed. So if they were on the right-hand side of the field, it would have favoured better passing in the attack.
Good thinking. When you were mentioning that while we were watching the game, I didn't pick up on that. Well done. What about other stats that you've picked out from the game? Because I've got some that I'll bring up, but if you've got any other stats, and what picture did they tell?
Just one question for you, actually, Matt. is with that leading truck and trailer runner that happened in the last minutes of the game. Do you think that was a bad decision under fatigue rather than poor technique?
I actually think Ollie Lawrence just got caught in the moment, and was, how can I say, trying to do too much, but not thinking about the actual laws of the game. And once again, when you're in that position, it's all about control and patience. And I think he went ahead of himself, and that's what ultimately what lost it for them. If they had been a bit more controlled under pressure, it could have been a different story for England. So I don't think fatigue came into it. What it is thinking under pressure.
Well said, well said. Two stats for me that I thought were really telling. One of them was the All Blacks. Our line-out was abysmal, and that was panned out in the post-match questions from the media. I think, from memory, it was like about 58%. England were 89%. Itoje was haunting our line-out. I'm sure Cody Taylor's probably having nightmares about him last night, but that was a big difference. And I was surprised sometimes when we were going still for the line, because they must have been so unsure whether or not they were going to get the ball back. And England, with so much extra possession, unfortunately for them, fortunate for us, unfortunate for them, they couldn't turn that into points. They had lots of opportunities. A better team, would be, and I did hear someone mention that up against the Springboks in the Rugby Championship, you can't afford to give away that much ball. So that's something they're really going to have to work on. I don't know if that's just because we have lost our main locking players who have now retired, or could just be combinations, because it's while it's essentially a team that have played together but not just consistently together in those positions. But that was massive. Our scrum, and set pieces is what rugby's about. Our scrum, we were 100%. We were on in the scrum, and I agree. Newell, when he came on, solid as a rock. So we never lost the scrum. I think England probably lost a couple. But the other one for me was ruck speed. Looking at it, ruck speed between 0 to 3 seconds. New Zealand were only 40%. So that's where we want to be, between 0 to 3 seconds, clearing the ruck out. England were 56. Watching the game, I thought they were doing a good job of slowing us down. I don't know if anyone else saw it that way, if that was just me. They did a good job of slowing down the ruck. And between 3 to 6 seconds, we were 27%, they were 24%. But in that important first few seconds, we weren't getting it out. So that wasn't helping Christie out either. But any other stats you guys saw? Or
Well, just to add on to that, so my question is, I looked at those stats too, and I was actually surprised to see that stat going to the English in terms of quicker cleaning out of the rucks under 3 seconds. So my question is, who's at fault at the rucks? Is it the loose forwards, or is it the scrum half doing that caterpillar thing and then eating up 3 or 4 seconds and then actually getting a static ball and having to put the ball in the air?
That human centipede thing, isn't it? Just drives me batty. It's I think one of the things, I think Underhill had a very good game. I thought Finau at 6, I think he was almost, it seemed like he was a bit of a passenger, and I say that lightly. I just think he doesn't have the presence that when Luke Jacobson came on. Luke Jacobson made a massive difference, where Finau wasn't doing too much around the park, and he was doing the basics well, but he was almost like having another lock on the field. And I think if we are going to be going into these series against, the Springboks are a biggie. Australia's playing quite fast at the moment. I think there we are going to have to look at our blindside stocks. Jacobson is 6, 7, 8 ticks all boxes, but it's that next man up. Who is the next guy that is going to come in and fill that space at 6? I've just got big question marks on the game from Finau.
Yeah, I think Luke Jacobson is a brilliant player, and if you talk about typical New Zealand captains and New Zealand leaders, for me he fits that mold. If you look at Richie McCaw, and it's not just the beard. Well, actually, all these guys have got great beards. but Luke for me is a natural New Zealand flanker, loose forward, captain material for the All Blacks. And I wonder if I understand Razor's appointment of Scott Barrett because he's got a connection with him from the Crusaders and they did well together. But Luke Jacobson, I don't know. I've always liked him. I think he's a typical New Zealand leader and player.
He's got a great nickname too.
Oh yeah, what's that?
Concrete Shoulders is what he's known as.
Okay.
That is a great name.
I would not want to tackled by him. That's all I can say.
Yeah.
What changes do you think Razor will give us for next week against Fiji in the States?
Cool.
Should I start us off?
Go for goal.
Yeah.
It's Fiji. I'm just going to leave it at that.
That's fired.
I love Fiji. I love watching them in sevens, but 15s, it might be a 50-point win. I'm sorry to any of our Fijian fans out there because you guys are actually the world's best fans. We saw you at the sevens in Perth earlier this year, and you guys are so cool. So I think maybe we might see some experimentation in the centres.
Who do you want to see?
I'd like to see our next locks come in. I'd like to see Fletcher Newell get a full 80 minutes behind him. Otherwise, I think maybe give Cortez Latima 80 minutes. That'd be quite cool to see as well. But otherwise, maybe keep combinations, let Geordie and Rico Ioane build their trust and get more games under the belt. That'd be about all. Yeah.
I'd like to see DMAC and Cortez carry on. I think if they're going to build a partnership, they must carry on in this Fiji game. But on the Fiji versus New Zealand game itself, isn't that a domestic game for you guys? Because you've got so many Fijians on the New Zealand side.
Oh,
Shots fired.
Oh,
Well played. Well played.
The Springboks to Zimbabwe by another name.
Yeah. Well, Beast carries the flag now, so.
Yeah, he does.
What about you, Andres? Any players you want to see get a run next week?
I think that I think the entire substitutes bench that played this week for the All Blacks, it would be good for them to actually get a start and to get at least 60 minutes, if not more, under their belt, probably with the exception of Beauden Barrett. I don't think they need to risk him against Fiji. But yes, I think it is an opportunity to see the depth that New Zealand currently has.
I think Scott Robinson is going to get a hair transplant after 4 years because he's going to lose so much hair in the coaching box.
Well, for me, I'd like to see Satiti get out there.
Yes.
I want to see Blackadder out there, and I don't know if he's in the training squad. Levi Omua, I think if we can get him working well, he's a wrecking ball in the middle there, and he's got that size. I'd like to see him. So that would be the changes or people I'd like to see get a run next week.
Yeah, and maybe I think it's Imoni Narawa, the Chiefs wing.
Yeah,
He's one there that I really want to see. Whether it's at fullback or whether it's on the wing, he is a superstar, that kid. A really good player.
And what about Caleb Clark? Because
I was going to say him too.
Oh, yes.
Storming
Yeah.
for rugby season.
Yeah, and he dropped some
Ideal
weight
game
too.
for him.
Yeah.
Dust off some cobwebs, and hurt some bodies.
Oh, could you imagine him and Omua working together? That'd be some size and power, wouldn't it? You'd run over people.
Yeah.
Okay, and something Andres and I were talking about yesterday, being a good South African fan, he's had a lot to say about Nick Berry. How do you think the ref went?
Well, I recall having watched a video about his competence made by a certain Rassie Erasmus during the British and Irish Lions test, and joking before the game that there was an opportunity for an Aussie to dominate the game for 80 minutes. So, yes, I think at times that became true, But ultimately, the close nature of the game showed that it was the players on the field rather than the guy with the whistle that achieved the outcome.
Yeah, good performance. I think from last week. Last week's performance seemed like the ref was a little bit whistle happy, and that might have had a big impact on how the game was running. And I feel there during the game he just let it flow, and I think he let things there that would have usually been a quick penalty with the ref from last week. He just said played advantage and let the game flow for once. I'm not usually complimentary about most refs, but for that game, a very good pass. I think probably about 70% for me. It's good. 80% actually. I'm 90. I'm going 90. Sorry, 90% performance from the ref.
Matt?
Yeah, I just think refs obviously they can be controversial, but they're similar to players. Now, if you look at the Georgian ref from last week, yes, he was trigger happy with the whistle and he got a few calls wrong, I think, but generally he had a pass mark. But in his second test, he actually had quite a good performance. So, like a player, they're not always going to be on song, and that's why as a team you always need to play past the ref. But yeah, I agree. I think Nick Berry, the evidence is in the game. It was such an entertaining game to watch and such a good test match to watch, and that's what we want. So, all credit to Nick Berry, and that's coming from a Box supporter.
That's some high praise. And for me, I think the comment of the day was Nick Berry when he was, that's my leg, let it go. When they were in.
Which was extra funny if you knew what Craig's dog was doing to his leg at the time.
Oh,
That's my leg, dog, let it go. Awesome. All right, gentlemen, thank you very much. It's been a great conversation.
No dramas.
cheers, everybody.